It's one question that I hear from you guys all the time. Like, I get my inbox is lit up on Discord most of the time. I don't have 47 parameters that I need to check off before I fire a trade. And that's not even the biggest trade I've had. The biggest trade I've had was 237 points. I saw that question. It's very easy to see why a trade has won. It's less easy to do that with a loser.
There's the mic check from Mr. David A. You heard it live and direct. Okay, everybody, hello, how are you? This is Rev-UP. You are watching the first live stream back on YouTube since we had our little ISP malfunction. Let's get underway. What we have today, folks, is we've got a special treat for you. This is the one, the only, the man, the myth, and the actual legend. What we have today for us is a student of the game here, and before we introduce him, let's set the stage here. What we're going to do is we're going to showcase people that have put in the effort and done and have done the work from the coaching that has been given. So what I'd like to do now is I would like to introduce Mr. David England. So David, it's very nice to see you again. We've chatted before. We've done a couple interviews together. We've done a couple coaching calls. So tell us, who is Mr. David A? Go ahead and expound on yourself, if you would, please.
Really, most days, right, crackhead who likes to. But for the most part, I'm a guy trying to get by. Tried to get as much as I possibly can get.
Can you hold the phone? We can't hear you. Can you put the phone flat right underneath your chest?
No, you're good, man.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm just a guy trying to trade for time.
And so let's start with, what did you do with your life before trading?
Yeah, so I went into the Marine Corps right when I got out of high school. And then after I got out, it was kind of a blur for about 10 years. And now I'm here. So, I mean, there's really, when I look back on everything prior to trading, not much went on. But I'd always been interested in like making as much money as possible in my life, you know, and it seemed like everything was always stacked against me. So about 6 years ago, is I just kind of decided to start taking it into my own hands, and that's when I really started to like explore trading and stuff like that. But even though I didn't even make it to futures till like 3 or 4 years after I started, which hindsight was a stupid move, but you know, you go in the order you're supposed to go, I guess. We know that. That's kind of what happened.
What other crazy ways did you try making money? A job, okay, boring. Did you sell Amway products, Avon, door-to-door vacuums? What other crazy things did you do?
Yeah, I was an independent salesman for a little while.
Oh, go on. We're listening. Go on.
No.
What did you sell, David?
Non-conference approved substances.
I love this. So you were a pharmaceutical sales rep. Okay, good. Okay, and how long did you try different things before you stumbled upon sitting at your computer?
Too long, really. And that just came from you know, dealing just with things that I didn't really want to deal with after I got out of the military, and you know, I went back to a life that I had tried to escape initially by going into the military. But you know, the heart, the mind, the body, it goes to what it knows. And you know, unfortunately, it was just towards not good decisions. So
I love it. Okay, now married, kids, that kind of thing. Talk to us about your family life, personal life, whatever.
yeah, wife's at work. So I'm here hanging out because I can. I got excuse the mess. We got a whole bunch of stuff moving around. I got one of them little terrorists right back over there. I'm actually surprised she hasn't come over here and tried to take over the stream yet, shockingly. So at some point during this, you guys can anticipate that she will come over here to bully me. Don't judge me.
Don't judge me. We won't. Parenting
Yeah,
is important.
she will come over here and she will punk me about something.
I love it. Good, good, good.
I'm
Mine always
not
punks me about my hairline.
at all. She's pretty hard to be mad at her.
Yeah. Okay, so take us back to when you first got interested in trading. What initially drew you in, and how did your options and futures become your main focus? And so start with when you started trading, and then we'll get into when you came along with Patrick, and then we'll go from there. But let's start before you found Patrick's stream. Talk to us about that.
About 2018. I just was looking for a place to, and I apologize if I'm not looking at the camera. I'm just kind of looking at what the charts are doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
It was, yeah, about 2018, and it actually started with share. I kind of started in the way that Patrick did, like, you would buy shares, and then I kind of got involved in the GameStop AMC thing. Like I even had shares of GameStop up until like a couple of months ago, but they were like free. I had already made plenty of money on it. Um, so anything I had, it didn't really matter what it did. The shares had to drop below like $4 for me to be in the red. So like I just didn't care what happened to it. But that's kind of how I got involved. And then when you make a bunch of money in that way, um, especially for someone who money never came easy to, like I didn't grow up the best. Um, we weren't rich by any means, so you kind of had to learn how to do things on your own from a young age. So like when you make money like that, you just kind of the hook gets set and it gets set deep. Um, that's really what happened. And so it was buying shares of things, trying to make a quick buck. And then I got bit. Um, I took the advice of someone, not that the guy was an idiot or anything like that. Like he knew generally what he was talking about, but I got bit pretty hard and it was like instant, like bought the stock at open and 37 seconds later had that oh shit look on my face, like what the fuck did I just do? Um, and that's kind of when I started like, okay, I'll look for buy and hold and then I'll try options. But then when I got started at options, like you buy ridiculously like out of money options for an expiration date that's either too close up or too far.
Mm-hmm.
So, immediately after you buy, it loses value. It goes down to, you're basically holding a penny stock at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And then I met through a friend of mine. I got involved in another Discord. I learned options trading from that, and it was up and down, hit or miss. But like I would do weird things like buy SPX or NDX contracts in the middle of FOMC, like I was doing. So like I might win 2 or 3 FOMCs in a row, and then I'll lose all of it and then some the next FOMC.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what happened. And then a buddy of mine just randomly said that one of the guys that I learned from, he said that he mainly trades futures. And so I just kind of looked into it. And everybody, of course, was blowing smoke off ICT's hind parts. So that's kind of like the first time that I heard of that. And I tried to, and so for someone who's still a new trader who's made no money at all, the first thing I try to do is go listen to ICT and his bullshit. And that cost me probably a lot more time than I needed it to, because I was trying to do it all on my own, and I would be trying to learn through fucking 7-hour just rants that he would do on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
No actual instruction, basically just him running his fucking mouth the whole time. And I just could not master it. And then one of the guys who's honestly, he's a really great ICT trader, and that's fine. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I just think the guy's full of shit. he was just like, "Yo, you should check out Patrick Whelan. Very simple, very straightforward, minimal indicators. He uses momentum." I'm like, "All right, cool." So I started watching his stream, and I was still, mind you, trying to trade futures. So again, haven't learned anything. I'm just reset after reset after reset, and it took me, I think, 11 months to get funded, and then within 2 days the account was gone. Still watching Patrick, trying to figure out just what he's doing when he's getting in instead of actually learning something. And then he was randomly talking about veterans one day, and he just, he was like, whatever, fuck it, I'll give away some accounts to some veterans. And I just happened to be talking to another guy in the chat at the same time about that, and
Mm-hmm.
Patrick saw that I
Mm-hmm.
was a veteran and that I had a Purple Heart, and he was like, "You prove to me right now that you are who you say you are." And that was when we were all in MFT, whatever that other app was.
Mm-hmm.
And so I showed him, and he immediately sent me all of his information, how to get in there, everything like that. Thanked me for my service. And so when I got in there, that's actually how. And I was in there for a little while. Him and some of the MFT team were like checking in on me after that, and I used pretty much the money that I had saved from what I would have paid to get in there, and that's when I booked my first call with you, because I think I had been in there like 2 weeks. And so I still hadn't even really gone through the course material. I'm learning every which way that you were trading. And then like I was listening to like what a little bit of what Cheryl was saying. So like I was still like I had all of these things that were on my plate that I still hadn't really moved yet. I was just still trying to do too much as a very new and, well, not maybe not new, but newish, but very unprofitable trader. And then I started going through his course, went through everything, and then things were like getting better, but still like I would get funded, and I might have it for a week, and then I would lose it, and whatever. And then when Cheryl had mentioned that she has this trade that she looks at, and she explained it, I just started watching. Like I didn't trade for a couple of weeks. I just would just sit there from like 9 o'clock in the morning until 4, and I would just stare at the charts. I would just watch them. Um, I never went back and back tested or any of that, because I don't ever, in my opinion, I don't need to go back and back test. I know why I lose a trade, and it's almost always because I'm impatient. There's no, it's not a fucking mystery. I don't have to go back and look at the notes for that. But I was just kept watching it, watching it, watching it, and then I remember what you had told me from our first coaching call, that it doesn't matter if you win or lose while you're collecting your data, you have to just press the button. And so I didn't do it on Sim. I actually got an account, and I was just like, I just told myself in my brain, like, if I'm going to master the emotions of that, which I still have not, let's get that out of the way now. I still want to slam my computer sometimes because the market is just annoying me. Um, and I do have like red trades. Like I'm not immune to it. I'm not the greatest trader in the world, and that's usually because I'm an overly aggressive person. But I was like, I have to do this with like something that feels like I'm really trying to make real money. So it didn't matter how many more resets I was going to do. Like I had to feel like the real emotions for that. And I just started clicking the button, writing down on the pad, clicking the button, writing down. I was, I was fucking sending everything that looked like a line break. And like we talked about on the stream a couple of days, I think last week sometime, I didn't learn a fucking thing from my winners. Like not a thing. It's very easy to see why a trade has won. It's less easy to do that with a loser, because you're for when you're looking at a loser, you not only have to look at the trade, you're forced to look at yourself as well. You have to look in the mirror a little bit, like, why did this happen? Um, and in my experience, 9.5 times out of 10, it was impatience. I was being very impatient. It wasn't necessarily that I was wrong, but I was being very impatient, and sometimes the drawdown was a little too much for me to sweat. And then I would get out of the trade, and next thing you know, it just rips face in the other direction, and it's a trade that I would have made a very nice profit on. But again, you learn the most when a trade is going against you.
Mm-hmm.
That is, it's something that I would explain to people like from the military. You never feel more alive than right when you're about to die. So you're never going to get more data about everything that you're going through than right when you're about to get your ass kicked by a big old idiot candle. So it makes you look at things like, why was I so impatient here? Was there a better entry? Where is that entry? Or maybe something that we should be thinking about that nobody ever does first is, where am I going to place my stop? Is it 47 points in the wrong direction? Because I might want to pass on that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a long and hard and massively expensive data collection process.
And okay, so we've got the timeline of David, and so before you stumbled upon Patrick, what type of educational resources were you finding using? YouTube, Google, paid courses? What were you doing to find educational content before you stumbled upon Patrick? Because we know exactly what happened after we put you on the right course, where Patrick gave the 20, if I remember right, it was 20 veterans. If they could prove that they were actual veterans, they got lifetime membership, and they got to the MFT, and they got the trading course. Okay, so before you got all of that, and we got to see you on your meteoric rise, what other resources were you using? Because the reason I'm asking this question is, you're not the only person that has gone through this adventure of finding the individual stocks, and then you get cream, so it's penny stocks, then you get cream, so it's options, then you get cream, so it's back to penny stocks, and then you get a little bit of money, then you try to trade the blue chips, and you're going to hold them instead of trade them throughout the day. Okay, and then we stumble upon futures years later. So everyone goes through the same journey that you've gone through. What resources were you using? Were you the guy that paid the $90,000 in courses, or did you find it all free on YouTube?
No, I actually bought a $500 boot camp. It was for options. I learned the basics really about market structure, EMAs, MAs, VWAP from that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Most of that is gone now. I think the only thing that's left from that is the VWAP. I don't use any of the EMAs that I learned and stuff like that, just because it's not applicable to what I'm doing now. So I did that, and then I paid to be in a live room. I think a lot of traders do that, as much as we don't want to admit it. A live call out room. But then again, you never, even though they might be explaining why they're taking a trade, if you don't understand why you would take a trade, then it's not really going to matter. And it didn't. That kind of thought didn't really register with me until like I met all of you guys. I didn't understand, like, what do you mean you guys don't call it out? And of course I'm thinking, like, you expect us to figure it out on our own, and you guys are like, yes, in fact we do. That was different, but again, it forced you to learn what you were doing. Again, you don't if you don't know what you're doing, you shouldn't be trading. I mean, if you have all
Right.
of these questions, like I joke around in the chat all the time, just Venmo me if you hate money that much. So that's really the extent. And then, of course, I was obviously paying all the activation fees and the resets and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that, prop firms. But like, that's really the only other. You weren't really watching. You weren't really learning from them, because they bank money off of people losing. Like, that would be dumb to try to learn from. So yeah, it was really just paying for a live call out room and options boot camp. That, like I said, I don't regret that, because it did give a pretty basic or a decent understanding of like market structure.
Mm-hmm. You hold the phone a little bit closer. Okay, so when we go through this learning curve, What do you remember when you realized that you could finally start to filter out the trash and remember that thought? And how did you manage to determine what was trash and what wasn't? Now you can say pre-Patrick, post-Patrick. Choice is yours. Whatever you want to say.
It was, I mean, it was definitely post Patrick, and it was probably in between my first call with you and because I talked to Cheryl and Kevin a lot, like in private
Mm-hmm.
message, like just picking their
Mm-hmm.
brain, and they were always very just like gracious about it, which is why like doing something like this, you know, between you and I for everybody is like as an actual privilege for me because Cheryl and Kevin weren't, you know, hey, that's going to cost you some money to know this information. They wanted to help me in mastering one aspect of something because I think that's really what I was craving because I knew I had too much on my plate. And when she had pointed out that trade to me, and she was like, "It happens every day." So again, that's when I told you I was just watching the charts, and I'm like, "Holy shit!" At some point during the day, this happens. And so I kind of combined that with what you had told me about like the difference between trading ES and NQ. Like you're like pick something, master it before you start worrying about everything else. And I'm like, why can't that apply to a setup as well? And so I got tired of trying to guess what the perfect RBI or GBI was or what was a fucking sword and what wasn't. Like I just got tired of dealing with all of that and I didn't want to guess about it anymore because it seemed like every time I thought I took a sword, you're like, nope, and I'm like, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna do this anymore, and I just kept getting pissed off about it, and I'm just like, I don't want to play his fucking game anymore. I need to find something that works for me, and so for I think like a solid like week or two, I took like a sword or what I thought was a sword after I kind of learned a better concept of what it was, and then I would try to focus on only RBIs or GBIs for like a couple of days, and I'm like, I'm still trying to learn too much. And then I just like I took like the day off or something because it was a really choppy Friday, and like when I came back Monday, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna try what Cheryl did, and I did it, and it worked, and I'm like, okay, if it happens, if I see it again, I'll do it again. And I made a lot of money that day, just doing that. And I'm like, okay, so kind of goes back to I found something that works. It's very easy to identify. So I'm like, we'll just do that now, because I'm leaving every trading day like happy and not angry, you know, or I want to punt my computer. Um, so I just kept doing it over and over and over again. Um, and it was just with one contract, and I just kept doing it. And then we had like a massive trending day one day, and I'm just like, you know what, I'm gonna up the contracts a little bit. And so I started doing two, and that I think I got like 20 points out of that. And then the next leg up was like 50 or 60 points, and I just kept going and going and going. And I started getting a little too crazy with it that day, so I just stopped for the day. And then I just kept seeing it over and over and over again. Um, I changed the time instead of trying to trade from when the market opened at 6 p.m. until 4 p.m. the next day. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to trade the Asia session anymore. And so I would purposely wake up in the middle of the night for the German Open at 2, and I would try that. And I would still go all the way until 4. And then, like, you know what? While I do this, I really have to limit my time. And so I went from 8 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. every single day, just trading that setup alone. And that's just, I just realized that, you know, it was kind of like the same thing with ICT. Like I had put too much on my plate. So I kind of conflated a little bit, like a couple of things that you had told me. I picked one thing to focus on, and that was a setup and a setup only, and do nothing but that and write down everything about it. And that's exactly what I did. And even though I had taken all of these trades off of my plate and replaced it with writing down. I've got notebooks full of shit that I just want to light on fire because they make me angry when I look at it, because I just think about how long it took to complicate everything, or how long I complicated it. But yeah, once I
So,
focused on,
so on that question, on that statement of it took me a really, really long time to complicate things. Okay, so it's one thing to learn how to trade and another to trade consistently. How long did it take for you to reach a level of steady performance?
it really took off after our second call. So it was
But
about,
how long from when you started trading futures,
oh,
stocks, whatever, until you were like, ah,
what is it, 2025? So it's 5 years almost, I want to say,
okay,
because
okay,
it's
okay, and
eight.
remember on our first call, I said it takes 3 to 5 years to learn this. Folks that are listening, it takes 3 to 5 years to learn this. When you're pissed off 13 months into this, remember this conversation that David and I are having right now. So David, 5 years, go on.
Yeah, I mean, it's but yeah. When I look back on it, it took about five. I would say about closer to 5.5 years. So I'm about seven, a little over seven into this, or about seven into this. Like I said, there was in between our first because it was like 8 months between our calls. I want to say, um, which again, that's a whole other issue we could get into. Not a smart choice, because he does tell you on your first call, set up another call for 30 days later. I didn't do that because, I figured I knew everything after one call. So, long story short, I did not know everything after one call. And it was a lot of, I would have some really good days. But when you have a bad day that wipes out 3 or 4 good days, it's still very hard to be, it's not conducive to making money. And that's what would happen. And but I still knew that I was like getting better. And then after the second call, which because I was more like, why do I need a second call if it's just going to be more of the first call? Completely different information from the first call to the second call. The first call, if most of you haven't gathered this, is Rev is really sizing you up. And he's looking at what you're telling him, and fairly quickly he'll figure out if you're full of shit. But it's about learning who you are and who you are as a trader, and the process in which you need to go through to learn how to be a trader. Now, mind you, none of that has anything to do with trading, or actual trading, until at the very end when he says, "Get in there, press the button, fuck it up." That's really the only time that he tells you to trade during that first call, is when he's telling you to screw it up, because you are going to screw it up, a lot. And so there was a lot of still guessing. I would guess really good into some funded accounts, maybe get a payout here and there, and then I would very rapidly guess my way right back out, and then we would just do the cycle all over again. And then during that whole time period between our calls, and I was talking to Cheryl and Kevin a lot, that's really when I was like, okay, I'm sick of this. We're just going to do one thing. You and I ended up having another call, and, shocker, it actually ended up being about trading this time. And you were showing me things that were just completely just like blowing my mind. I'm like, why have I never had it this, or thought about it this way, or had it explained to me this way? And when I started seeing that, because, one thing that you and I spoke about on that call was how brilliant Patrick truly is. I've learned a lot from him, and he's a brilliant trader, loud but brilliant trader. But your ways of trading are so vastly different. I think he's definitely increased on his level with that. But your understanding of everything that had to do with the market was like nothing I had ever heard before. And you have a way of explaining it to, idiots like me, because sometimes I need things broken down, like, a 5-year-old, for whatever reason, because just whatever, my brain's just not registering it. And you have a very good way of explaining things that are easily understandable, and that's rare for people who can teach. Most people just talk, and you definitely do more than that. So that, with the help of Cheryl and Kevin, and a lot of what Patrick had, his YouTube videos and the course videos, that's really kind of when it just like all meshed together, because I just took all of this shit off of my plate and I mastered one thing. And then when I did that. I moved on to the net, and I just kept doing that, but only with things that were inside of that trade. Most of the time I can see the trade coming. Now I can see it before it even happens, and I'm usually just waiting. Or if I'm feeling spicy, I'll put a fill on and I'll walk away and I'll go do something else, and I'll set my targets, which is another thing that I'm sure we'll get into here about why I do what I do and why I hold so long like a weirdo most times. But that comes from simplifying, removing all of the trash, finding something that worked for me. And that's when I really started seeing big days, like really big days. And I'm like, wow, I don't have to work anymore. This is cool.
And so looking back, the breakthrough was purely, and as we talk about every day on the stream, cutting out methods that didn't work, right? Our edge is understanding where not to trade. Okay, were there any other big shifts, like things that weren't on the chart that changed,
Yeah.
changed as you progressed?
One of the biggest things that was the biggest help is me is actually from Cheryl when she said, I look for reasons not to trade. When she said that, I was, you kind of go, huh? Like, I mean, it doesn't make sense. Like, I'm here to trade and make money. I mean, if you want to sit there, go for it. But I'm not going to do that. And there's so many times when I did that, and I really should have just been sitting there and not doing anything. Just old habits die hard, but they still got to die. So it was just, I don't know. I just did everything that I could to master that. And when I did that, I became really good.
And when you realized it's filtering out and not filtering in, how did the ego take
Oh, yeah.
realizing that we weren't filtering in, we're filtering out?
Oh, yeah. The good old ego death. Um, everything in trading, everything in trading is a direct result of you and your actions alone. Once you realize that and you're willing to take not just self inventory, but a real like moral inventory of who you are as a person, and why you do the things that you do. Mine, which like I've stated before, I'm an overly aggressive person. So when I have a bunch of ammunition, I'm going to use it. That was kind of like how I viewed all of those setups I was trying to take. You gave me too many bullets. So if I have them, I'm going to shoot them. But taking that's like you say all the time, that the hardest thing about trading is taking self-inventory. Once I realize that's who I am, I need to stop giving myself so many bullets to shoot every single day and just give myself for one well-placed shot. One well-placed shot will do more damage than spraying and praying most times. So, and that's really what I was looking to do. One well-placed shot every day and then fuck off.
Sounds like a good plan. Most see, and this is what we're all striving for. I want to remind everyone watching this: we aren't trying to trade to just switch jobs and still sit here for 8 hours a day. Key in on what David was saying. He used to sit here from 6 p.m. to 4 p.m. Okay, why would we do that? Oh, because there's all this money. Is there really all this money and sitting there? The answer, my friends, is no. Okay, so speaking of bigger trades, most people want to know what your biggest trade is. Okay, great. We see you hitting hundreds, 130, 150, 200 points in the NQ. Okay, great. The question that we're going to pose is, how did that make you feel? This is where we're going to use the word after you realize that you can hit those.
Honestly, I mean, obviously it's cool. Like, it's nice to be go like, wow, like I really nailed that trade. Like and it is okay to be impressed with yourself sometimes. Like, it's all right. I've come a long way, and absolutely impressed on where my skills are. Because, like I said, me and money have actually a very difficult relationship. Even though I make enough of it, I don't always spend it because I have a difficult relationship with money. And that's just something from my own personal life. But I mean, shit, how many times have you told me, hey, you should probably go spend some money? You've told me enough that where Like, okay, I guess I'll go and do that. But that's just, this has just been a wild ride. I never expected to be here. You know what I'm saying? So,
Here's how we can shift this: filter in versus filter out. When you realized that, and as you've explained already, you were trying to filter in. Hey, there's all this. Look at this, the RBI, the GBI. Hey, this and that, this and that. When it hit you like a ton of bricks, okay, what was that boof moment?
well, it was honestly it was probably that first day when I just started taking that setup and like that Cheryl had showed me. That was really when I was like, okay, why am I doing anything other than this? I hear it all the time in the chat, in the YouTube chat, when people are taking it like this pays every time. I'm like, yes, I've been saying that. I mean, and it's true. I've been telling people that like it pays the bills. So if you're having these weird days, I mean, why are I've always thought, more shit crammed in my head, more knowledge, more is what's going to make me the best trader out there. But less is more. Less things in your head, less things you're trying to do is more. Um, Less times trading is more. Again, goes to one well placed shot every single day. So it was really that first day that I was doing that. Like I think I took like 11 or 12 trades that day, but I was just every fucking time it just kept hitting, and that's when that light bulb, went off. And then when I started getting these face melting trades, like I regularly bag probably 60 or 70 points in a day, but like that first time really was just like it was insane. And I remember looking at that trade, and that's not even the biggest trade I've had. The biggest trade I've had was 237 points. I saw that question. But when I saw that, and I was like, okay, because I didn't trim, I didn't do anything. All I did was trail my stop. And I remember just sitting there and I was looking at it and I'm like, okay, why did I place my stop here? Why did I place my stop there? And I'm like going through it. I'm like, okay, that's a protected low. Here's a protected low. Like, I'm like looking at this, like, I'm like, I did absolutely everything I was supposed to do. And I did it like it was perfect. And I was just like, holy shit, man. I'm like, it was just weird to me to be that consistently good at something, even if it was only for a short period of time. It just blew me away on everything that I had learned, really.
Okay, so I have experienced this in my life as I've been profitable for several years now. Okay, but the question, and this is going right off of what we just talked about a second ago, is it that there was a feeling when you finally caught on, or David, was there the lack of feeling, right? And here's I'm going to explain real quick. I don't like to be the moderator that's going to keep talking, but what I found was once I became profitable, there was no feeling at all. It was business as usual. So tell me about your mindset. Once
Oh,
we're at the point in your story where you were just like, oh, there's too many freaking bullets, there's too many trades. I'm going to try this one. Oh my God, this one works. Talk to me about the feeling or the lack of moving
uh,
forward.
I honestly can't say that there was no feeling. It was relief. So it was relief, like, okay, I can do this. I'm finally making consistent profits. You've put in the work. Let's just keep going. So even though like there was kind of like relief in it, I shouted it out in that YouTube chat that day. I made 17K. Like that was insane to me. And then you messaged me privately, hey, good job, proud of you, act like you've been there. And ever since then I have, like, that's why, like, I'll call out a trade, but like I don't really like, I'm not talking about lot sizes, I'm not talking about profits or anything like that, because ultimately it just doesn't matter, and it shouldn't matter to any of you guys. um it's on my computer screen, so it should only matter to me. And again, if you guys are trying to compare yourselves to someone, all you're doing is slowing your progress. I have my reasons why I trade. I have my reasons why I go as heavy as I do. My reasons might be different than yours, So if you try to mimic what I'm doing, you're just, again, you're selling yourself short, really. You got to figure out why you're doing it and why you're taking the trade. My understanding of a trade might be completely different than yours because you might be looking at it completely different than me. And that's one question that I hear from you guys all the time. Like, I get, my inbox is lit up on Discord most of the time. I don't have 47 fucking parameters that I need to check off before I fire a trade. If my setup isn't there, then I don't take it. It really is as simple as that. And I've explained it several times. Through VWAP, retrace to the 20, draw your line, and send it. You don't need to ask any. There it is. That's my parameter for trading. So in case anybody else, and again, I do appreciate the questions and I love the curiosity and I'll help as much as I can. Those are my parameters for trading. I've explained my setup. If I don't see it, I don't trade. There are plenty of days of the week that I do not trade simply because I just don't need to.
So David is obviously reading the same questions as me, right? And so the question was that he just answered was, a lot of people believe there's a secret formula to instant trading success. Okay. And then the question of David was, what's the most common misconception you see in your DMs? Okay, he just answered the fact that everybody thinks that there's 700 freaking things that go in to the input. Okay, but when he tells you that there's only 3, you go, yeah, but what else? Yeah, but. Okay, so here's David's answer, and David, you can say yes or no to this. The holy grail to trading is getting a coach that can put you in the right direction. Is that a yes? That's yes or no?
Yes. There is no short way around this. And if you try to take the short way, as I'm sure most of you know, because you've also tried to take the short way, you're just going to lose a lot of money. It's very simple. So instead of paying 3,000 tuition to the market, why don't you pay 500 to Rev, get a coach, and then 500 again 30 days later after you've taken some trades and you've massively messed it up, and then he'll actually explain trading to you after that.
Notice we haven't talked about charts and we haven't talked about getting it right first. Okay, folks, those of you that are not yet profitable, here's what's happening. You're trying to get it right first. If you don't know what right is, how can you actually get it right? The answer is you can't. Okay, perfect. So now let's segue in. We've got some DMs here. We've got some messages from our clients that we had them submit on the sageft.com website. And so the first question here, and now we're going to transition, and then, yes, everybody, we will slowly and surely get to David's trade. I promise you we'll even bring up an example on the charts. But the question is there any solution? This is from KK. Is there any solution to feel more confident to trade short over long? Even with the KISS chart as trend guideline, I still have more successfully winning rate long than short trades. You answer it first, then I'm going to give what I believe is the answer, and this will probably all make sense once we go through.
For me personally, no. I don't really give a shit what the market does, long or short, and I'm honestly not going to try to figure it out. Main reason being I simply don't care. But that would be a lot of, like, I'm not trying to go back and count how many trades I've taken long or how many trades I've taken short. The setup goes both ways. If I see it and it's going to give me the money, I'm going to take it. It's really very simple. If you have more success going long over going short, I mean, that's more of a question you really need to be asking yourself or your coach. Why am I doing that? Why do I think, you know, why do I think I'm an expert at calling bottoms but not calling tops, which is, by the way, an undesirable skill. Please stop trying to do that. That's a question you really have to dissect and answer yourself, and your notes will be able to tell you that, as well as your 10,000 trades that you should have taken to determine that. Because if you're determining that already about yourself without taking 10,000 trades, you still have a pretty long way to go. And I don't say that to be rude or an asshole or anything. I'm just saying, like, there's no reason. So it could be, are you guessing one way and not guessing another? Again, another question you should be asking yourself and you should be asking your coach. But you should be successful no matter which direction the market is going if you aren't guessing and you're taking your A plus 100 level trade, whatever you want to call it. But you should be looking to your notes for that. But it makes no difference to me. I don't care what the market does. If it's gonna give me an opportunity, I'm gonna take its money.
Okay, here's my perception on why people have a struggle shorting. 15-year bull market. We're so used to buying the dips that you never want to sell the rips because it just doesn't work on the monthly, weekly, and daily chart. The other reason is pure and simple. Lack of data equals lack of confidence. If you spend the next 3 months figuring out all the shorts, you're going to get uncomfortable trying to find the longs because we're still moving up into all-time highs. So what you need to do is, as David said, find the data that proves that it doesn't matter which way you trade. Here's the deal. If you can't find the data that says you shouldn't short, you shouldn't short. Okay, great. The next question. Thank you, KK. Wonderful. Why is it? Okay. Tad, where do you find the clear crayons? I've looked everywhere and I can't find them. I think that if I try the clear ones, I'll be able to achieve master market analysis. David.
That's because I ate all of them already, Tadpole. And I forgot to go find my crayon. I saw your fucking comment in Discord.
Good. The friendly banter of the mods. I love this. Okay, next question, Tad. Let me find this.
Somebody gave him a second question.
Okay, next question, Stephen Hanley. When and how did you create constant, profitable trades?
When? It was about, I want to say like 18 months ago, maybe a little bit less than that. I don't know. I feel like shit, man. I feel like it's been so long. And did he say how? When and how? How was because I just kept taking the setup over and over again. I talk about it often when I'm asked questions in the Discord or in the YouTube chat that I made it a point to master every single thing about that trade. A lot of times when I'm in a trade, I would say probably 6, 7 times out of 10, I'm not even sitting in front of the computer watching it. I put it on, I set my targets, and I'll trail the stop loss up if I need to. But it's just the confidence that I've gained from taking that trade so many times. I can't even begin to tell you how many times I have taken that trade. I can't even begin to tell you how many times I've taken that trade and lost. It didn't become, it wasn't just, trade. Good trades lose. That's something that you kind of got to reconcile your brain with. Good trades really do lose because our market is manipulated. There's nothing we can do about that. So once you, I think, kind of realize that you're your own problem and that good trades are going to lose and bad trades are going to win, you'll be okay. Because I've taken some trades before and I was kind of like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that. But that's going to happen. That kind of goes with just me being human. I am overly aggressive and sometimes I might be a little bit early to the party. But that's just me being me. I keep that on a pretty tight leash. I know if it were ever to cause a day where I went on tilt and just spiraled, and I have been whacked, believe me. I know what to do. I have a coach I can call. So
coach, good. Okay, perfect. So this brings up a good point. If you have questions for David that you didn't get submitted and you have a burning desire to share them, hit a super chat and give us a minute or two to see it and we'll get it answered. Okay, the next question is from Nick, CRNA. You have mentioned before that if you don't see your setup fire, you don't take a trade. What are your 2 top setups that you go to the most? Now, I do believe you have one setup, right? And if that is the answer, we're going to get into that in a minute. Is that the actual answer?
Yeah, I don't have top 2. A setup that I trade.
This is important. You guys hear what he's saying, right? There is no second setup, right? David is filtering out, not filtering in. I want everyone to understand. There are some of you that are going to be disappointed in David's answer. Oh, what? This guy only trades one setup. Oh, well, what if it doesn't fire? Then David doesn't trade. This is a very, very critical part of trading because, David, what is our edge? What have I been saying over the last week in the trading room? The edge is not knowing when to trade. It's what?
When not to.
When not to trade. Okay, so if David's A plus 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 setup is not firing, does David take a trade?
No.
No, it's a very simple answer. Those of you that bend that rule, pay the price. Okay, so the next question is, in a larger time frame, like the 15-minute or 1 hour, what are things you look for that either keeps you out of the market or gives you a signal that there is a potential setup coming? Thank you, sir.
It's different per time. And again, I know you learned this on coaching calls, but he has said publicly, which I'll repeat it. If you're trading on a particular time, you need to trade on that particular time. If I look at the Friday, I think it was, I took that hourly breakout. I didn't go to the 2 minutes to set my targets. I set my target an hour. So that's what I did. We'll kind of get into that where I've told people to kind of, if people are wondering where my targets are at, look left. That's all I'm going to tell you. You should know why my targets are the way that they are. If not, you really shouldn't be taking that setup. Why are you trading something you have like no knowledge about? Again, it's a very simple and straightforward trade, but you should know why I'm doing what I'm doing. Most of the time, I don't take a trade off of the 4 hour or the 1 hour. I'm looking for targets on the 4 hour and the 1 hour. And by targets, I mean wicks. If you are looking for areas of resistance or support, look for big, gigantic wicks on the 4 hour and the 1 hour. Again, this is basic knowledge. If you don't have this basic knowledge, you should not be taking a trade, or you should be calling your coach. As far as the 15-minute, I've taken numerous 15-minute breakouts of my setup, but again, I am not setting my targets on the 2-minute. I'm setting my targets on the 15-minute, at the very least the 5-minute. I'm not going to go all the way down because it's just different data. It's different information. The MAs, EMAs, they're all in a different spot. So I keep my indicators very simple, so it makes it helpful. I'm targeting wicks and I'm targeting pivots, but that's the main reason why I'm looking on bigger time frames, is because I'm looking for the entire story. What's been happening? Okay, this happened here, which means I might want to target there if I believe it's going to go up and take this wick out or whatever. Because again, wicks, common knowledge, are areas of support and resistance. The bigger the wick, the weaker the candle, the stronger that support and resistance is. So that's kind of where I set my targets from, are those bigger time frames. I'm targeting those 15-minute wicks, those hourly wicks, those 4 hourly wicks. But the entries are really on the 2-minute. I live and die with the 2-minute. The bigger time frames are just, they're the story. Those time frames are telling me how much money I'm going to make.
Perfect. Okay, so the next question is from Brad Fay. What do you do to resist FOMO while you wait for the David A trade? Because it could take many hours or days. Do you leave the room, close the charts, peek at your phone to see if it's getting close, and then come back? Asking for a friend, he says. Sure.
What do I do to? Well, again, it's fairly easy to stay calm because I know everything about my setup. I know it is going to happen. It will happen. It might not happen for a couple of hours. It might not happen until the next day. But if I've made $10,000, a couple of days prior, do I really need to be trolling the charts? I mean, again, I'm looking for reasons not to. A perfect example would have been, what was it, early December, like leading up to Christmas. The market conditions, they sucked. They were, NQ was just barcoding everywhere. There was just, even I looked at it and I was just like, it just grossed me out. And I'm like, I can't. if I'm going up to the charts and I'm watching the bullshit that NQ is doing and I'm already pissed off and I haven't even put on a trade, that tells me I'm sitting in the wrong spot and I should be far away from my computer. Um, but when you're consistently profitable enough, you don't feel the need to trade every day. And so most days I'm done before the market opens. A lot of days I'm done like right after it opens, but I don't trade past 11 a.m. really. Because there's just no need to. Anything after 11 a.m. most of the time is noise. Not that I haven't, but you're talking like extenuating circumstances, really good volume, lots of liquid. Like there's just like shit happening in the market that day. And some days are harder than other dealing with that. And I might just, get up and go do something, or I'll just leave the house, or I'll go to the gym, or I'll make some food, or me and my trusty pen will go take a walk. I can just, most days I don't have to do anything. Early on, I had to do lots of things, but not so much anymore. But that comes with time and trades.
Okay, so now we've got a couple questions from Mart, and then we're going to get into an example. So, Mart has a couple questions about you and how you handle it, and then he wants to get into the charts. Okay, so Mart's first question is, knowing what you know now, if you were starting to trade from scratch, what would you do differently? Folks, this is a very big question because there's a lot of you that are just starting or you want a fresh start. Listen to what David is about to tell you. Okay? Go ahead.
Knowing what I know now, I would have never placed a trade prior to getting a coach. And I think that's the biggest thing with me. Because I'm a very hands-on learner. So no matter how many different ways I try to answer this question, it all ties back into getting a coach first. So I'm not going to try to kind of make this big, long explanation of knowing what I know now, but I do it because it all comes back to coaching. I would have never placed a trade without getting a coach first because I think that it would have saved me a lot of time. Maybe not. It definitely would have saved me thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars. So there's that. That's
Perfect. There's no reason to go on.
that's the best way that I think I could answer that question, if I'm being honest.
Perfect. And folks, that wasn't a setup question. I didn't know what he was going to say, right? But the answer is, how about you get the experienced person to show you what to do correctly? Okay, so the next question. Well, what's your go ahead.
Really quick, and don't be too hard on yourself. Just because you don't learn it right away doesn't mean you're stupid or that you won't get it. Tad stupid. But you'll figure it out. Just give yourself some grace and some time, and you'll get there. You'll get there. Maybe it's faster than others. Maybe it's slower than others. But who cares? Everybody will arrive at their destination, but what version of you arrives is completely up to you. All right.
That's great. That's great advice. Okay, so the next question is, what's your mentality around trading for money versus trading for points versus trading for execution perfection, or as near as to possible?
I don't trade for any of that shit. I trade for time. I don't have my account balances up on my screen. I don't care. I don't care. If you trade to trade well, money will be a natural byproduct to that. My goal is to execute my trade to the best of my ability. If I do that, I am going to make plenty of money. Just give yourself some time.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Okay, so then the last question, and then we're going to dive into the charts. This is what you've all been waiting for, folks. Thank you for still being here. We're an hour and 16 minutes into this. We're going to keep going until David runs out of saliva or air in his lungs. The next question is, what's your view on scaling up in terms of trade size?
I mean, whipping 75 contracts every trade is already kind of enough. But again, I didn't.
How did you get there?
By trading one contract and then two contracts and then three contracts and then four contracts and then five. And yeah, it just, I slowly increased with my comfort level. And I always tell people, if your heart is thumping while you're in a trade, you are doing something wrong. You should not be doing what you're doing if you are about to shit your fucking pants. Like, why? I just don't understand. Like, I mean, I do understand because I did it, but like, obviously, I'm speaking now. Like, why do that to yourself? It doesn't make any sense anymore.
Is that a technical term, David?
Which part?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hold on, you got me on that one. Okay, so the technical term is if your heartbeat is above 7,000 beats per minute and you're shitting your pants, says David A, you shouldn't be trading or you should scale down.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so
not
and
that you shouldn't even be trading, but you clearly have bitten off a little bit more than you can chew. And you have to look at that. That trade with that lot size to me is like fucking clockwork. I mean, it's just like click. All right, I gotta go do something real quick. But that's because I'm used to that. I don't see the need to go heavier. I do trade lighter. There are plenty of times, guys, where I am only in one contract per because it might be below VWAP. I don't like the time of day that it is. I've already hit a green trade because I'll tell you this right now, if I've already hit a green trade and I take another trade in that day, I massively scale down. That trade could rip 100 points in the wrong direction because I got kicked out of Trade-Evade and it won't touch my profit, kind of a thing. Like, that's what I do. So I'm always trading lighter and lighter.
Now, so my question with that is, when you got, okay, so you were trading one contract. When did you say, okay, it's time to go to two? How, when, what was the circumstance? Talk to me about that. This is the burning question for most people.
It was a trending day. And then I just remember, again, I have a difficult relationship with money, as I've stated before. So subconsciously, I'm always worried. I know what it's like to like not have a place to sleep or to not know when my next meal is going to come. Like I know what life is like that. So to say that even still to this day that doesn't play a part in my trading, I totally just lost my train of thought.
No, you're fine. You're fine. We were talking about when were you comfortable enough to go from one contract to two?
I just had a moment, really, and I was just kind of like, fuck it, now or never. And that's kind of how you have to be. It kind of goes in with, even when you're just starting out and you're trading your very first contract, you're just like, fuck it, I got to press the button sometime. And that's really what happened. I'm just like, you know what, I'm going to do two right now. And I set it up. I changed the contract number. The setup fired. I hit two, and I just sat back. And it did exactly what I needed it to do. And then I did it again, and I just kept doing it. But I wasn't doing two like every time. I would be like, okay, this setup looks really nice. I'm going to do two contracts. This one's a little bit iffier. I'm only going to do one here. And then eventually it just became always doing two because I was able to identify the setup might have been a little bit more questionable, if that makes sense. Not that they weren't going to fire, but there was just like there was a few more mitigating factors or whatever. And then it just got to a point where I was just doing two every time. And then I went through that same struggle with 2 to 3 and then 3 to 4. So it was a process of like 9 or 10 months, really, I want to say, till I got it. Up to 5.
And then, if I'm assuming correctly, you got to 5 contracts, and then what you did is you just started to add accounts instead of contracts. Is that kind of the natural progression of it?
Yeah, correct.
Perfect. Okay, so now everybody, you should all see the screen share that we have on the screen. With this screen share, David, tell me if you see it. What we're going to do is we're going to answer the rest of the questions. This is what you've all been here waiting for. This is going to be the big hurrah. Okay, now, don't be disappointed if there's not 50 million different rules and he only tells you 4 things. So the next question is from Martin. This is what everybody wants to know. Can you explain your setup with examples? So what we have on the screen here, David, if you want to just walk through it, David sent us his trade that he took earlier this morning, or he identified earlier this morning. I don't know if he took it, but what I want David to do is just go through and explain to me and explain to us what you see. What you got, the 15-minute, you got the 2-minute? talk to us about this whole thing. Let me just bring in a couple questions. You're going to answer them all at the same time. Can you explain your setup? Can you know when to stay out of the market, and what is your risk model? Go ahead.
Okay. So we'll go with when to stay out. So if you guys look on the right chart, the 15-minute, what's something that you see there? I see a lot of candles. I see even more wicks. If you are not seeing, I'm not even going to say powerful candles, like that big old green one that's over there to the right. Granted, that's news driven, but I'm looking at bigger time frames. If I'm being honest, when I see a lot of wicks like that on the 5-minute, on the 15-minute, on the hourly, it tells me the market is just indecisive. It's not doing anything. It's ranging. And, you have to keep in mind that, it ranges 85% of the time in the market. You can't, like Mancini says, if you can't trade ranges, you can't trade. So I'm looking at the larger time frames because I'm always, again, looking for reasons not to trade. So what is the bigger time frames telling me on why to stay out right now? And as you can see, prior to all those green candles, market was very choppy. It wasn't doing anything. Now, what was the second part of that question?
So, can you explain your setups? Can you explain when to stay out? Okay, so you've explained when to stay out. Okay, so then your risk model, as we kind of shift from the 15-minute to the 2-minute, kind of explain the setup and then the risk model at the same time.
Okay, so you see what's going on here. We got a news candle. It sets up. It's a very simple. There's not a magical term for it. I'm not mentioning any fucking fair value gaps or any weird shit like that. Very simply, after the data, it built out a bull flag. Here's the bull flag. It goes up. It rips up past the not. It goes through VWAP, rips up past the 20, the 13, and the 200, and it pulls back. And what does it set up? And this is, I can't remember who it was, but somebody who shouted out the 13 EMA that they had learned from like Velez. Big kudos to you, because if I'm being honest, like I just added it on there just to kind of see. A lot of times shit on my chart I don't pay attention to anyway. But it's actually been very helpful, that white dashed line. A lot of times it does retrace to that. The 13 EMA does kind of have the same function as the 20 SMA, which is directionally you want to be going in the direction of both of those. So that's why I have kept it on my chart. But it built a bear flag. It's got the 13 below it. It's got the 200 below it. It powered through VWAP. It's got the 20 below it. I mean, why would you not? Like, that has absolutely everything that says bye-bye shorts. So absolutely something I would have taken. I would have taken the breakout above that previous green candle wick, and I would have rode it all the way up. Now, when I'm setting my targets, I'm looking, again, I'm zooming out. So you could even set some targets. So you would have caught a breakout right around 640. I would have targeted, above 660, where all that stuff on the 15-minute chart, where you see those 3 wicks. I would have targeted there for a first target, immediately slid my stop to break even. And then we're going to start activating some runners. But again, here's where you want to start paying attention to wicks on the hourly and the 4-hourly, because that's kind of where I'm setting most of my targets. And when I set my targets, target 1, easily, if I have 5 contracts, 3 of them are coming off immediately, because once I do that, if I set my stop to break even if those final 2, for some whatever manipulative reason that the market does what it does, rips back down, takes out my stop that's at break even, I'm still green. So that's how I'm kind of moving my stops and I'm setting my targets. And that's exactly what I would have done here. And I mean, even inside this setup, you could see you've got 1, 2 RBIs if you're into that sort of thing. Me, not personally, because like we've discussed before, I don't particularly like guessing on what is and what isn't. But now you're looking at places where I would set my stops as I'm trailing them up. I would set my stops as I'm trailing up below every single one of those red wicks, because that tells me at that particular area there are buyers present. And so that most likely on a first little dip down will be protected. and then so on and so forth.
Perfect. Thank you for those answers. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring up a different chart. We got a couple more questions, and it's going to be kind of on an example here. Let me make sure I'm bringing this up. It's a little bit blurry, but we get the gist of what we're doing here.
Yes.
Okay. So the thought is, and you guys can see this, right? It's blurry. It's because it's a really small picture. Okay, so the questions here are on this chart, how do you know how to stay out of the first trade shown by the red line as opposed to your yellow line? This question assumes that you are going short on the line break and not waiting for the 9 a.m. candle to close. Okay, so David, one of the great questions that everybody has is, are you waiting for the bar to close or are you not? Go ahead and take it away on this example here.
Well, I'm looking at a few things. I'm looking at all time frames. I'm looking at the dollar. I don't just have that on there. I do look at other things. So if I notice the dollar or the ES is kind of doing a little dance, that's kind of, I remember this day. Those were those were three really good trades, and that's what I was witnessing with the ES and the dollar as well. Like nobody was doing anything. And so I definitely would have drawn my line the way that black one is, because you're really looking. I mean, you're still seeing wicks. You probably could have gotten away with not taking that first one, but it's, again, that was a news day. But I'm watching several different things because I trade the NQ. I'm looking at Nvidia. I'm looking at Apple. I might be looking at Google. I have like a screen of that up. So I'm watching several different things, and if I notice things aren't, nothing is doing anything, like why am I going to trade? As far as drawing my lines, I normally do keep them towards the body, um, because that's really what I'm looking for it to break and hold below. The wicks mean those prices have already been tested. I know the price can go there. I know the next candle can go there. What I'm looking for is where that candle closed, because according to my data, that is really the particular level that I'm going, that's giving the most trouble, because as you can see, there's multiple wicks at those particular areas. So I want it to get below the body of that, kind of for that real breakout. Obviously below a wick is, just further added confirmation.
Perfect. Okay, so all right, I want to remind everyone, if you have a burning desire and you got a question for David, hit that super chat. All right, so the next question, let me move this out of the way. Okay, the next question is, and this is from Ryan, and we know Ryan's got a million questions for you because he will keep going. The question is, could you walk and we have an answer for this, okay, but it's right. So, could you walk through a playback trading session, pausing to explain the setup and the ones you would skip and why? I assume there are a few of them a day at best, so this should be a fairly quick breakdown. Okay, so instead of going through a walkthrough review, on this chart that we're looking at right here,
Part up. This is
talk
perfect.
to us about, we see this huge red bar right in the middle of our screen, right? You guys can see my mouse. David, as this bar is breaking and it's all starting to go into position one, we go underneath the VWAP. What I want you to do is I want you to talk about what you're actually seeing. If you see my chart, you can see my cursor. Talk to us about what you would see as this is going along, and we'll just use this as the example.
That's honestly a perfect. So you should already be, the big move down should already have alarm bells going off. That's a big move. Um, so you should count that as a leg down. And I've talked about it on the stream, where with every leg down, kind of like how Mancini talks about levels. Every time a level is tested and tested and tested, it becomes weaker. It's the same thing with when you're trading, in a particular trend. Eventually, if you're not catching that first move, second move down, and you're trying to send it on the third, fourth, maybe fifth, you're really just asking. You're asking to lose money. It's not that the market can't go higher or can't go lower. A market, yeah, the minute we start thinking that, the market absolutely will do those things. But you just have to understand that with every leg down, like we talked about this, like 85% of days are ranges. They're not trending. Mine is more of a on the trending type days. You will find it more and more and more on trending type days. So if 85% of days are ranges, you need to keep that in the back of your mind. So if it's ranging, that means it's going to be bouncing back between whatever levels throughout the entire day. So that means every leg down that I try to take this setup is riskier, and I am putting myself at risk for either trying to, sell the bottom or buy the top. And it's not that I don't take multiple of them one after another, but if it's that third, fourth leg down, most of the times I'm not trading it. And if I do, um, I'm kind of looking at everything at that point, and I have massively scaled down.
When you're doing that second and third, fourth, fifth leg, let's go back to what we've all been taught. Okay, the thought is, David, if you are you taking that third, fourth, and fifth leg if you didn't make money in the first or second leg?
If I didn't make money the first or second leg,
Are you still going
most
full port
time
on the third and fourth one?
at that point, at that third or fourth leg down, it's 10:30, 10:45, 11 a.m. at that point. So, I mean, not taking a trade is taking a trade, people. Like, I mean, you really got to understand that. It's not having a position is a position. So it's, I mean, you got to be happy about not losing money. Like, why would you not be ecstatic about that? I love when I don't um, end the day green or red, because that means nothing bad happened. Like I'm, again, looking towards the losing aspect of it. Yeah, it'd be cool to make some money, but do I need to? There's been days where I've had shit to do, and I'm like, boom, click. I'll take 10 points, one contract each. I make $200 in every account, and I turn my shit off and I go about my business because I have things to do. Like, there's not all these massive days. I just have really nice days that afford me the time to like not have to sit in front of my computer every day. So if I didn't make it on the first or second leg down, and I'm looking at that third or fourth, I'm definitely looking at my clock, because if it's past a certain hour, I really should be reconsidering my position.
There's one thing that you keep saying that isn't on the charts, and I want to make sure that people hear you saying this. David keeps saying he doesn't trade anything but for time. So David, now that it's been brought to the forefront, you keep saying, I don't trade for money, I don't trade for anything but time. I want you to elaborate what you mean by that, because I trade for time only. Nothing else matters. Tell me what that means to you.
I mean, as much as I like all you guys are great. My kids are cooler. So that's really the main. And I can't smell Tad and Andy for too long. It's just fucking disturbing. But for the most part, like I haven't always been the best father. That's something that I wrestle with a lot, and this has afforded me an opportunity to right a lot of wrongs and to give time that I missed with my older children and time to my youngest that my oldest children never got. But it allows me to give back, that time that they deserve. Because the best part, I don't care about trading. I don't care about the money. I don't really care about much. I'm a simple dude. I don't need a lot. That's why I still live in my same house. I still drive my same Nissan. Um, I still have the same clothes that I have. I don't go on shopping sprees. I don't. The only thing I do is I buy good food, and that's it. So being able to give that time to my children means more to me than any other dollar I could make.
When I judge a man, I don't care what clothes you have on. I don't care what car you drive. I care about how you handle your children and your family. Okay, from what I see, David's a stand-up guy. Look, when I am labeled, me personally, my first label is I'm a father. Okay, you can call me asshole, traitor, coach, fat guy, bald guy, okay, whatever you want after
Boom.
that, okay, family, boomer, okay, my kids promise I'm a boomer, okay, family, and then anything else after family is the way that I judge a man and his character, and so what the reason I asked David that question is, all of you are trying to trade for money. Money is a byproduct of trading a process with an edge correctly. Okay. And but then when we think of trading with an edge, okay, then all of a sudden people think it's some sort of magical thing. What trading should be to you and what it should look like is business as usual. You work at a cell phone store, you buy and sell cell phones. Okay, so customer wants a cell phone. Great, you were able to get the newest iPhone 16 and you happen to have inventory for them. Okay, good. Behind that inventory, you were able to get it at the best possible price, wholesale price, and you want to sell it for the best possible retail price. Why does trading have to be any different? The only reason we think it's different is because it's some magical thing that we can tell our friends that we're actually doing. But if you remove all of the money and all of the hoopla and all the fancy, cool things, what you're going to find is these old heads, they're trading for time. Time is the currency, folks. All of the YouTubers that are showing their Lamborghinis and their Porsches and their super cool houses, folks, some of those people may be very, very, very depressed and have nothing else to live for, and they think that that's what everyone else wants to see. The other thing is, Lamborghinis sell. David and I don't drive Lamborghinis. We drive Nissan. Most rich people drive Toyota Camrys or Honda Accords, just not the guys you see on YouTube, right? So as we kind of bring this back away from the charts, let me get the old question Tinos out here. Let's see, we had a couple more of them. So what was your last hurdle? Did you ever hit that moment where you had one last hurdle, one final bad habit to overcome before you really started nailing your trades?
Oh yeah, I'm patient. Like I said, old habits got die hard, but they still got to die. And I've always been an unreasonably impatient person my entire life. And I know that about myself. I don't, make any. I'm the kind of guy that if a screw takes too long being put in, I'll burn the fucking house down. So like that's just kind of like how unreasonably impatient that I am. That is something that does not that does not just go away. It is still very much alive and well. If you think for some reason you're just going to stop being who you are, you're wrong. You're always going to be who you are. You're always going to struggle with it. But it's like when it's the worst, like what are you going to do to deal with it? There are times when I look at the computer and I'm like, fuck, I just want to do something because for whatever reason, like I just want to I want to just be done with the day. And that was really the last hurdle for me, was understanding that the setup's going to be there no matter what. And there's nothing I can do to force it. There's nothing I can do to make it happen or not happen. So I'm just going to wait for it to show up, and I'm going to hit the button when it does. And so that's what I did. I just kept sitting there and waiting for it to show up. And when you practice, like you practice anything, you have to practice waiting. You have to practice waiting one more candle. I mean, come on. Most of the time we trade on a 2-minute candle. If you can't wait 120 seconds, you should find something else to do. You really should. I also say that, from a glass house, but I mean, it's you got to learn to wait. It's not something I'm the best at every day, and usually days like that, you kind of know if you're in the right mindset, and if I can feel that where where the pen isn't quite taking the edge off, I'm going to go find something else to do today.
And this keys on, there's only two things that stop a trader from being successful. He just mentioned the first one, the lack of patience. Okay. We're not going to talk about the second one. It's a whole nother can of worms that we can open. We can go 3 more hours on this. We have the inauguration in about 12 minutes. We got 2 questions to get through, and then we're going to close this down. Advice to self past. If you could hop in a time machine and give yourself the younger trading self one piece of advice, what would you say to shortcut? Now, I know we kind of asked this question earlier, but what would be if you had to explain to your younger self a shortcut?
There are no shortcuts. Get yourself a coach. Expect to take the scenic route.
Perfect. There's nothing else to say. Vision and goals. Where do you see your trading heading in the next 5 to 10 years? Any shifts in style or big goals you're aiming for? Thank you in advance.
My goal is to fund my own account. I still have all these prop firms mainly because I'm just lazy. I don't want to close everything out yet because I just I got better shit to do, like anything else. So, and it's like a comfortable niche that I'm in, but like I would like to do that and then become more of a person who collects mailbox money, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love it. Okay, so Andy has a super chat. Folks, if you want your burning desire, if you want your burning desire put up on the board, Andy has a question. Why the hell did Tad get first billing? You crayon munching bastard, he says. Thank you in advance, he says.
There's so many things I want to say right now.
We can say those later. Okay,
but interest in everybody being around their children like I am. I don't know. Maybe Tad smelled less today. Not likely, but maybe that's the reason why. I'm not entirely sure.
All right, we've got a thank you from Eric Richardson super chat. Thank you, LTD. Let's go. Okay, so in closing, let's review the highlights of what David has said. And here's the weird thing. He is just saying the same exact things that you're going to hear Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to when we get done on the live stream. It's not going to change. Hey, David, can I slide into your DMs and you show me something secret? He's going to say, get with your coach. He's not going to keep showing you stuff on the screen, right? Because as he has pointed out several times in this interview, it's not what's on the chart, it's what's between your freaking ears. The hardest part about learning how to day trade is taking self-inventory. Okay, now let's also bring in the fact that every single person here today, maybe except for 1 or 2 people that ever hear this, has gone the same route that he has gone. It goes stocks, penny stocks, options, crypto, futures, stocks, options, penny stocks, and then you lose all the money, and then you go futures because you realize you can short without $25,000 in your trading account. Understand that the one thing you can bypass is that experience right there. You have to make the decision, like David did. Get the coach, stop all the excess nonsense. Okay, now, one thing we didn't talk about, make sure you have your money right outside of trading to have your money right inside of trading. David, do you have anything to say about that right there?
Yeah, I mean, I know what it's like to have your credit cards maxed out and shit because you keep buying accounts and you keep buying resets and all that other stuff. But if you are living beyond your means and you don't even know how to trade, then
how stressful is it to try to make money trading for your family while learning how to trade?
It's demoralizing.
How many surgeries does a surgeon have to do to pay for medical school, David?
Enough.
Recognize the stupidity of the question and the lack of answer.
Yeah.
How many of you folks are trying to do surgeries while paying for medical school? Did you know that you actually can't do that in real life? But because there's nobody over your shoulder, you do it all day, every day. You loaded an account, you blew it, so then you decided to buy prop firms because you thought that you were going to be better than everybody else and that it was just some sort of mistake, right? David, does that sound familiar to anybody?
It sounds
and then what happens? And then what happens is you look at your credit card statement, like I'm for reals. Nick did, and he was $12,000 into resets. Wait, what? How can you spend $12,000 just like that? So the way that it works, and this is going to, those of you that follow other people on the internet, you'll notice that they're borrowing my taglines. Okay. If you guessed your way into a funded account, you're going to guess your way out of that funded account. David, how many times did you say, I lost the account, I was screwing around, I was doing this,
Actually,
doing that, doing this, and do that?
would be asked that question. When I bought the 300K account, what was it, like last or the week before last? I looked at the number. It was like, this is including, so every time you buy an account or you reset an account, you get it. You basically, it tells you it counts starting from number one all the way up. Number one all the way up. That 300K account that I bought was number 376. So
376.
and
Now remember, they weren't all $19.
that wasn't just, and that was just Apex. We're not including Top Step. We're not including Take Profit. And what the fuck was that other one? I don't remember what the other one was, but like, think about how many I've done. And I started with Top Step. I probably have way more. I've blown a lot of accounts, and I've spent a lot of money. 12,000s. Those are rookie numbers, Tad.
He's in the farm. Yeah. Nick's in the farm league at 12,000. And to think that Nick could be the only person in this room that's only spent $12,000, I think not. Okay, we got another super chat. We'll get out of here in just a minute. I want to remind everyone we have the inauguration, very important part in history here. Great interview, David. Thank you. From Turn the Page, $10. David, thank you. Okay, the next question or the next super chat, Richard, $5. Thank you both. Even though going through a tough time in my personal life, watching this has helped so much. Love the community. David, Richard, here's what I want to say to you, buddy. Taking time away from the screens is absolutely healthy. It is mandatory that you do it every once in a while. We just had a client, very, very active client in the community. He about a week and a half ago, he says, hey, I got a week left before I go back to school. Should I take the time off? Absolutely. If you think that you need to ask me for time off from the markets, my answer to you 100% of the time is absolutely. Here's why. We are not sitting here to sit here. We are sitting here to hit it and quit it. Trade it, don't date it. Move on. Find everything else to do besides trading. Because what happens is we start staring at the charts, but then all of a sudden, it's like, here's a funny story for you guys. Yeah, I've never shared this story before. You're going to love this. David, okay, get ready for the look on David's face. When I was 18 years old, and I was just freshly on my own, I've never told this story before. One of my very good friend's fathers owned all of the adult bookstores in the city that I lived in. Here's where we're going with this. Hold on, right? So I'm thinking, easy money, $40 a shift. Let's go, baby. I could definitely use $40. 12 hours, I can handle it. No problem, right? This was when minimum wage was $5.25. So as you're sitting there in those adult bookstores as the clerk, you start to realize all of the things on the wall start to look the same. So where we're going with this is, as I'm sitting there for 14 hours at a time, waiting for my next shift guy to come in and take over, all I'm doing is staring at what's between all of the pictures on the wall. So when we're trading and we're sitting there and we think that time at the screens is the most effective thing, I want you to remember that story is eventually you start looking between the candles and you start seeing stuff that isn't there. So you should always take time off.
It's so refreshing to trade. It's so refreshing. You should absolutely make a point to do that at least once a month, whether it's for a day or for an entire week.
As we close this out, what I would like to say is get a coach.
Please.
There's no other way through this. And I'm sure David's going to say the same thing. There's no way around the information that you need. There's no sidestepping it. Oh, I can watch this YouTube video. Wrong. 10 and a half years of me losing money more money than I had. I finally paid the $300 to get with my coach. And from that point on, being held accountable to somebody else other than myself, I began to see what I needed to actually do. Closing thoughts, David. I'll give you 1 minute, and then we got the inauguration. We can't run over for that.
Yeah. Take your time. Give yourself some grace. Call your coach. Y'all will get there. A lot of you already are. But all of us can still improve. A lot of us can get better. But just give yourself some time. You guys will all figure it out. It takes a long time to get a hang of this. I've been fortunate to get it a little bit quicker, but even still, I'm 7 years into this, and it takes time. You're gonna be fine.
Love it. Love it. Okay. With that being said, everybody, let's all give a big round of applause. Thank you for David Anglin and the rest of you, including David, tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., live on YouTube. We are back, fam. We think we have got this thing nipped in the bud. We are ready to rip and roar. There is going to be some action tomorrow. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. David, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Absolutely, absolutely a pleasure doing this. We will see everyone next time. See ya.